everybody, and welcome. Happy New Year to everybody here.
Yeah, Happy New Year, folks.
We're back here in 2022, so hope you all were safe and enjoyed yourself. And if you went out on New Year's Eve and didn't anything not destructive, I'm glad you're safe. And some people sat there and didn't do really that much at all. So thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us here on the Sports Talk with Chris Heidel. I'm Chris Heidel, along with Steve Zulich. Our good friend George Bashura from Shakedown Thunder will be joining us shortly. He is taking care of some family issues, but he'll be jumping on here. So let's give you the schedule tonight. We get Dimitrios, Jelen-Joy, or Coach Minch from Hartford Community College, the men's basketball coach, will be joining us at 2 minutes at 7:30. At 7:45, Zach Mackey, who is the radio voice of Montana State University. The Bobcats are taking on the North Dakota State this weekend in the championship game down in Frisco, Texas. So that's for the Marbles. At 8 o'clock, our good friend Dave Preston, who's the sports anchor reporter for WTOP in D.C., who was up at the Pinstripe Bowl last week. That was the Terrapins playing, not the Ravens scoring 54 points against
that was a good game.
And then at 8:15, Mario Pharr, who is the women's head coach at Hartford Community College. We're trying to stay a little local here tonight because of stuff, trying to get some love for some of the community colleges here in Hartford County and Baltimore County where we are. So let's bring in Coach Minch. Hi, Coach. How you doing?
Hey, guys. Good. How are you?
No problem. Not a problem. So thanks for coming on tonight. Happy New Year. So you guys last couple of weeks didn't play at all because you had some COVID situations. So how's everything going?
Yeah, we've been great. Our last game was December 18th. We didn't have anything scheduled until the 4th, and that was pushed back. We had a game on the 4th and the 6th rescheduled, just really out of caution for other schools and us as well. Trying to stay safe amongst all this, like everybody else is. Trying to see what 2022 is going to bring us in terms of COVID and the season and kind of how it all wraps up here. So all good on our end, just trying to stay healthy and get the guys as many opportunities as we can.
Yeah. So you guys playing next week, January 10th on National Championship night. So I guess you want to speed that game up quickly, or can you move it a little quicker so you can go home and watch Georgia and Alabama?
I didn't even know when that game was being played, to be honest. I was focused on Hagerstown at Hartford, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it though when the game's over and seeing if I can catch the last few minutes of it.
Yeah, Steve and I used to go to Hartford Community College. Back when we went there, the facilities were getting almost upgraded. So now you guys have a very couple years old arena.
It's like 5 years old.
5 years old. So talk about that new arena. It's still new to people in Hartford County. It's like that new venture for people to go to.
Yeah, I feel a little bit older now. It's actually almost 10 years old. I actually played at Hartford the first year of the arena being built. Was my sophomore year, and was obviously my last year at Hartford. And I think that was 2012. So it's been around since 2012, and we're actually entering, I guess, the 10th year. I could be off on that, a few months, but no, we're extremely lucky to have the facilities we have at Hartford. It's a place for events to happen, concerts, graduations, basketball tournaments like the one coming up this weekend. That doesn't involve us. It's a high school prep school tournament happening, but some pretty big names coming into town. So it's going to be exciting. But no, we're just lucky. We're lucky to be able to play in it. It definitely helps with a number of things, and recruiting being one of them. So, it's been interesting for me to see it as a player and then to see it as a coach. And kind of see how it all works together, and it's just like I said, we're lucky to have it.
Yeah, let's bring in George Bashura from the Shakedown Thunder, a good pal who helps us out every Tuesday night. So go ahead, George.
How you doing, Coach?
Hey, George. Good. How are you?
Good. What's one of the biggest improvements that you've seen in your team this season?
Yeah. Wow, that's a loaded question. We have from the beginning of the season, I would say, just our attention to detail. I think when you have a new group that comes in, we had a bunch of new faces. We started the season with 17 players. We still have everybody with us. So it's a big roster, and we have one sophomore, like one one sophomore officially. The rest of them kind of, with COVID, everybody got the year back if they played somewhere, if they transferred. So it's been a weird situation. So we literally have 16 freshmen and one sophomore. So a lot of new faces trying to get to know each other. I think the improvement, like you asked, would be just the cohesiveness and trying to figure out what rotations work best together. I think we've kind of figured that out closer to the break. So we're hoping that the long layoff doesn't really affect us too much, and we kind of can keep that going. That's probably our goal, and that's what I've seen us improve in most, is just attention to detail and being more cohesive as a unit.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, with all the COVID going on now, with the new virus and cases rising daily around the area, how are you keeping the kids safe? Like, you using the mask during practice and stuff, or how you doing that?
Yeah, so we've been having the mask up all year, even before the spike. The rule for us was indoor sports must be masked at all times during practice, and then during games we can the players that are on the court can have their mask off. But even during practice, if we're playing a 5-on-5 scrimmage, we have to wear a mask. So it's challenging for the guys at times, but they're willing to do whatever it takes to be safe, and so are we as coaches. So that's the biggest, I guess, protocol you would say that we're dealing with right now. There's some stuff that's being thrown around for discussion just with the spike and everything, but nothing finalized yet, really.
Yeah, we're here with Coach Minch, who is the head coach at Hartford Community College up there in beautiful Bel Air, Maryland. Or technically, it's Churchville, if you want to say Churchville, but it's not really Bel Air. But if
it's on the border.
It's on the border, but it was a different area code. Yeah,
5 minutes from both. Yeah,
exactly. Talk about last year with this. You just brought about this COVID thing. You guys played. Everybody played with this empty arena. How creepy was that?
Right. So we didn't actually play. Right. At all. We had like inter squad scrimmages and practices and things like that, but a lot of teams in our area didn't actually have a season, much like some of the high schools in the area last year too. So it was really weird. We've played in some empty arenas this year during the season, just with earlier in the season when people weren't really sure about what was going to happen. And I think that it's safe to say that we'll play in some empty arenas in the spring coming up too. So it's pretty weird. But after watching like the NBA bubble and, some of those things on TV, you kind of get used to it a little bit. And it's really just about the communication between the coach and the players. And it's a lot less just like outside noise to deal with, really. So it's not the worst thing. Our guys do, we try to play a fast paced game, and we try to pressure on defense and create some turnovers with our athleticism and our quickness, and the fans being in the game definitely help with that. So that's going to be a challenge that we'll face if we play with empty arenas and things like that. So just kind of the energy that we feed off of, we could use some of that. So
I'm showing some old highlights I found on YouTube. I like the court. It's very nice. It looks like that cool blue. It's like really nice looking.
Yeah, I was actually an assistant in that game right there. That's funny.
Oh, okay.
That was a little bit ago. That was we actually got the court redone, and that the blue that's on that court right now is no longer there, and it's all kind of like light, different colored wood. So it looks pretty cool now. So yeah, that was, I can't even think about what year that was now. But no, that's funny you brought that up.
we don't want to date you. You'd be like, oh my god, it's like 5 years ago. God, geez, I've been here too long. Yeah, but George, you got anything?
Chris, do your homework.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, Coach, I guess I've talked to a whole bunch of different other coaches. I was sitting here listening to you talk. The one thing that I've never asked another coach, and you'll be the first one, does wearing the mask during practice put a level of fatigue on your players?
I think it can. I think it's more of a mental thing with everyone, because even myself, like I'll be trying to talk to the guys, and if I'm getting all fired up and saying some things, like sometimes I'll like kind of just take a break. And last spring, when this all kind of hit us, we implemented like mask breaks. So we would open the door up, we would go outside, take a mask break. we would kind of incorporate it into our practice, just like a water break. So we've kind of continued that a little bit. So just to give the guys a rest as much as we can. And we're not perfect with it. We're not perfect with mask or anything, but we're trying. And the guys do a good job with it. I think they understand it. They agree with it, more than anything, which is important. So we have a good group of guys this year that really are focused on really just winning games and being successful, not only individually, but as a team. So they're not going to let, wearing a mask get in the way of any of that.
Yeah. Well, talk about the Maryland JUCO conference, because that's what the conference you guys play in. The NCJA. The subdivision of the NCAA tournament and all that stuff. It's all the teams from the state of Maryland. You have Hagerstown, you have PG County, you have Southern Maryland. You can even go out to Allegheny. I know when I was there at Hartford Community College, Allegheny used to come and play, and they had some guy named who played at Maryland. What's his name? Who won the season? Stevie Francis. Stevie Francis was on one year. I'm like, that's pretty cool. You go to 2 years school and you head on to Maryland and you win the national championship. That's not bad.
Yeah, there's some talented programs in our league, and there's always a player or two that'll end up at a Division I school. I've seen years where 3 to 5 guys from our league go Division I. I've seen years where only 1 or 2 guys go, but each year there's talent, and you're going to see guys go to multiple levels. There's really good coaches in our league that probably go under the radar, but it's definitely a challenge. And I think right now I want to say we're sitting at the 5 spot right now in the conference. Cecil is really talented this year. Howard Community College is really talented, and Chesapeake Community College that's kind of the top 3 right now in the standings. So, so those are kind of the guys that we're looking at. We play Cecil and Chesapeake in the second half, and PG County's up there too. So just a lot of good basketball that, like we're saying, kind of goes unnoticed sometimes, and good coaches and really good history too. Like you mentioned, Steve Francis at Allegheny. There's been players, all up and down the conference that you could really go back and look at that have done something impressive with their basketball careers.
Exactly. Well, Coach Mitch, thanks so much for coming on tonight. You guys play next Monday night, January 10th. Is it open for fans to stop by, or do they have to get a ticket, or where can they watch this game? Can they watch it on Hartford Cable Network, or what?
It will 100% be live streamed on Hartford Athletics /watch. Okay. Every game at home is live streamed through that link. I don't want to speak on the fans. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with that yet. It's COVID right now. It's a fluid situation with trying to figure out the spectator situation. So yeah, but it will definitely be live streamed. HartfordAthletics.com/watch. We'd love everybody to check us out, and I hope you guys stay safe. Thanks for having me.
Well, no problem. We'll catch up with you middle of the season and see how you guys are doing.
Sounds good.
All right. Be safe. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks
guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So, all right, folks. That's Coach Minch from Hartford Community College. The Fighting Owls are home next Monday night against Hagerstown at 7:00 there at the arena up there at Hartford Community College. So, George, what's going on? Everything okay?
Oh, everything's good. Everything's good.
That's cool. That's good. So I was doing some show prep tonight when I got home. Because I had to work a little bit and I had some stuff I had to take care of. But did you know on this date in 2006, we're talking about college football because we're still in this college football national championships next week, and the Montana State's playing against North Dakota State this weekend. But did you know on this date in 2006, this game played each other between Texas and Southern Cal?
Hold on. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
Hold on. I have to bring out the good old. You got to bring out Keith Jackson.
Leonard runs away from the pressure. Now he's got to throw it, and throws it high and out of bounds, and the game is over. Texas has defeated Southern California 41-38 to win the national championship of college football.
That was the game of the century that they talked about, and that was a good turning point for USC, because after that they kind of been, up and down, and Texas has been in the toilet.
Didn't Pete Carroll go off shortly after that into the NFL?
I think he stayed around a couple more years because I think they had a three-peat, and then he left town because of some kind of scandal he had at USC, and you don't want to talk about that. No.
Yep.
So so that was on this date in 2006. Another game that I know people don't really care, but I care, because this is our second national championship for the Seminoles. We on this date in 2000 we beat Virginia Tech 46-29, and guess who was quarterbacking in that game, Steve, for Virginia Tech?
I don't know. I don't know who that was.
His name is Michael Vick.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah. So here's some some old footage from 2000, down there in the Sugar Bowl, and that's actually Warwick, Peter Warwick, who took that all the way back for a touchdown for Florida State, because I know that
the Nokia Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I was going nuts.
I thought I felt this fate murmuring around that day.
That's our second of 3 national titles, under Bobby. One was Jimbo Fisher, later in the year. So speaking of national championships, this Saturday, 12 noon on ESPN, if the weather is nice down in Texas, Frisco, Texas, we got the SBS championship game between Montana State and North Dakota State. And we're bringing Zach Mackey, who is the voice of the Bobcats of Montana State. So, Zach, thanks for joining us. First of all, are you warmer than us here in Maryland, or is it the same temperature?
I got to assume that I'm colder here. I don't know. I got about a foot of snow all around me. I apologize too, guys. I'm out. We've got that crazy crossover time with basketball and football and all this. So we've got our football coaches show or a basketball coaches show coming up in about a half hour. So I ran out to the car to join you guys in that. But no, it's plenty of snow here. If you want to see snow, come on out.
Yeah, we just had our first snow of the year. Some places around here got 14 inches of snow. Some places that just got 2 inches, and that's it.
Sounds like a Saturday in Montana, guys. 14 inches. Come on.
Nice. Well, let's talk about this game against North Dakota State. I had a chance to see North Dakota State this year when it came to Towson, and that was no contest. I think North Dakota State is just like Alabama. You give them one turnover, and you can turn around. It's 21-0 right away. So, what do you need to do? What does the Bobcats have to do to make that from not happening Saturday?
Well, here's the thing, guys. I think that as long as you have a solid defense, it can put you in a lot of games. And the Bobcats right now have the number 2 defense in FCS when it comes to the ability to be able to stop the run and stop it all. And really, a big part of that has been their linebacking, their defensive line. Now, granted, North Dakota State has the number 1 right now defense in FCS. They've been able to hold opponents to an average of just 11 points. But obviously, you let them get on a roll and you give them a couple of breaks, they're going to make the most of it. And that's what they've been able to do against Montana State in 2018. They did it again in 2019. And so now meeting up for the third time here in the playoffs, 3 consecutive times, trying to get the upper hand is going to be Montana State. But, I just have a feeling that anytime you can have a solid defense and you can have a defense that plays like the Bobcats do, you can be in a lot of those games.
Yeah, we're showing the last time you guys played them was 2019, and that was a semifinal game. So it kind of was, I just feel like North Dakota State is just like Alabama. They just find players and they bring people from, all parts of the country, and they just gel them into their offense, and they never skip a beat. Yeah, I guess we lost him.
I think he's got an internet issue.
Yeah. We'll bring Zach back here in a minute. But do you understand what I'm going to ask him? It seems like they just re-gel just like Alabama does.
You were trying to say is basically it doesn't make a difference where they're at, who graduates or who moves on.
Right.
It's just that there's a constant backfill like a farm team that anyone could fill in at any spot.
Right, exactly. So let's bring back Zach here. Zach, my question was before I know you're outside with the internet and all that stuff, but it seems like North Dakota State just retools every year. You feel like it's going to be an off season like last spring. They didn't make it to the championship game. They lost to Sam Houston State, and it's like you're kind of like, okay, are they done? And then all of a sudden they just turn around and they're back in the final.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they just have right now, and luckily, Coach Brent Vigen, the head coach of Montana State, was there whenever the the role, it started turning and it started to become where North Dakota State was that team to beat the first couple of years. And now, they've gotten to the point where they're in 9 of the last 11. It kind of recruits itself, and you've kind of got yourself in a position where the coaches don't have to go out and get as much as really it's, those guys want to play there. They want to play at a championship level. Right now, North Dakota State continues to be the crown jewel, and they continue to play at that high level. So I think a big part of it is, that they just continue turning the wheel. Like you said, I mean, last year, I throw a lot out with everything that happened with COVID, everything that was going on. I think it's hard to judge a team and a program by what went on last year. Montana and Montana State, both of us did not play in that spring season. A lot of teams across the country didn't. So it was such a weird time that, whenever it got back to normal, you just had a feeling that North Dakota State was going to leave off right where they ended it.
Yeah. George, go ahead.
So, Zach, I'm going to tell Chris, I was out in Montana back on my birthday in June, and we're rolling into Yellowstone National Park, and it's 32 degrees and it's snowing on June 11th. Okay, Chris? Snow knows no month out in Montana. Okay. I've never seen snow on my birthday, and it was a thrill, a scary thrill, but to see snow on my birthday on June 11th up in Yellowstone National Park.
Wow. That's cool.
Well, first off, you get a good birthday because my birthday's June 9th, so we're not too far away.
Gemini's rock.
Yeah.
So Zach, getting ready for this game, what's the one stat that Montana State has to be on top of to pull off a victory? What is the key stat line that will deliver that victory?
Well, I think a big part of it is obviously the personnel they use. They use the tight ends and they use the fullbacks. You look at a guy like Lipke, who's one of the premier fullbacks in the country, but the two tight ends so far the last couple of weeks especially have caught close to 65% of the passes. Now, the Bobcats went against South Dakota State, who had a All-American tight end on their side too, and luckily Troy Anderson, the linebacker, it was able to do a really nice job about it. They continue to be a mismatch, I think, for a lot of people in the FCS, those tight ends, how you can, get a linebacker that's going to be able to fill up the middle, stop the run, but yet still chase one of them downfield. So I think that's going to be one of the huge parts is how can Montana State stack up with those tight ends that have been really good for North Dakota State. They'll run two of them out there at a time and, be able to stop what has been a prolific offense with those tight ends involved.
That's true. We're here with Zach Mackey, who he's the voice of the Montana State Bobcats. I went to high school. My mascot was a Bobcat, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like the Bobcat. No offense, the Bobcat's good.
Yeah, just a Bobcat, but I was a Cougar.
Yeah, he was a Cougar.
We were.
George, where were you?
I was. This isn't good. I went to school in Illinois. I was a Maple Leaf.
Maple Leaf, just like the neighbors up in Canada.
Yeah, that's right. That wasn't too ferocious when you said, "Let's go Maple Leafs."
At least I was a Condor.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that works. So what are the three keys for Montana State to bring home the title? Though they used to be there all the time. They won 20 titles over. I was looking at the history of the football program. So it's like they're used to being there.
Yeah, I mean, they're used to being there when you talk about 37 years ago. 1984 was the last time the Bobcats have been there. They've only won 3 national titles, and it was back in the 50s, 60s, and then once there in 84. So it's been a while since the Bobcats have been in the big game. They've been competing for Big Sky championships down the line a number of times and gotten a lot of those. But, the big one is kind of been wearing on them. But it's been a long time. There's guys that were on that 1984 team. Our sideline reporter, Dan Davies, was a coach on that team, played on the 78 team that also made it to the championship. And, he now is going to be with us here in this one. But it's been a little bit. It's been a minute in between. I think the big part of it is going to be Tommy Mellott. I mean, the quarterback for the Bobcats is a crazy story. I don't know how familiar you guys are with it, but we went the entire regular season with a different quarterback, and then quarterback decided to transfer as soon as the playoffs started. Tommy Mellott's a freshman, gets his first career start, the first playoff game, and he has scored 3 touchdowns in every single contest. He last week scored another 3 or 2 a couple of weeks ago now, but he is from Butte, Montana. He's a freshman, and he's made an unbelievable impact. He's rushed for 200 yards last week, or keep wanting to say last week, forgetting that there's a little bit in between it.
Week off, you're like, you feel like you're doing it every day.
Yeah, but no, Tommy, that's going to be a big part of it. Troy Anderson's up for the Buck Buchanan Award as the top defensive player in the country at the linebacking spot. They're going to need a big one out of him. He's projected to be a first-day draft pick, maybe second day, somewhere in there in those first couple of rounds. And he's been just he was an All-American at quarterback. He was an All-American at running back. He was an All-American at outside linebacker. And this year he was an All-American at middle linebacker. So he's a 4-time All-American, which is something that doesn't get, recounted and talked about enough. So I think some of those guys are going to have big games and come through in big moments.
Exactly. Well, Zach, let me let you go because I know you got a lot of stuff going on tonight. Thanks for taking some time tonight for us, and be safe in travels to Texas. Hopefully it's going to be nice down there. I know this time of year it could be in the 60s. I know a couple of years ago they had an ice storm and everybody kind of didn't know how to drive. That's what I heard. I wasn't there, but
same thing with Baltimore, Chris.
Hey, Texas can do the same thing too.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Go Bobcats.
All right, Zach. Thanks so much. All right, that's Zach Mackey, who the voice of the Bobcats of Montana State. If you want to watch that game, it's 12 noon on Saturday on ESPN. So, it's going to be a good game. I think North Dakota State has a battle because I think they battled themselves against JMU a couple weeks ago. I think that was more or less everybody's going to call that the national championship game.
Let's pick the upset. Montana State over North Dakota State.
Is it going to be a field goal, or is it going to be a last-minute field goal, or are they going to be one of those like classic shootouts we saw at the Rose Bowl?
I've been sitting here talking to Coach. I was thinking like 38-26.
Okay, 38-26. We're going to write that down, 38-26.
38-26, duly noted.
Okay, write it down.
I'll say 27-24 just to put my 2 cents in there.
I'm thinking it's going to be a very close game because these schools normally used to play each other all the time, so they haven't played since 2019. But it's 2 different seasons. But it's like I feel like Montana wants it more than North Dakota State because North Dakota State, this is like Alabama, they're an old hat. It's like the whole state of Texas, down there in Frisco loves the Bison. It's like they should just move the team to Frisco, Texas.
What's great about that is you have 2 deep Midwest teams going down south.
Right.
That game should be played outside in Montana.
They should go back to offense. They should, instead of making these neutral sites, they should go bring back to like the campus so that you can see the cold,
absolutely.
The minus 15, the frozen tundra like Green Bay was over the weekend. It was like -8. Even the hockey game in Minnesota was like -7. I was like,
well, the Green Bay Packer game was 10 degrees yesterday on Monday, and it was like -9 degrees in Minneapolis.
Yeah. So let's bring in this gentleman who does a lot of stuff for POC in DC, who wears a cool yellow jacket. Red, yellow, red. Red there. That's a lot of red. That is a lot of red. Yeah.
More than Ron Burgundy, I would have to say.
Yeah, it looks like Ron.
Wow.
Burgundy. Yeah. First Ron Burgundy of the year here. So this is not Ron Burgundy. This is Dave Preston, who does a great job for Maryland Sports and does stuff for this radio station down in DC, WTOP. So Dave, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year. You were pretty busy last week. How was New York?
He's muted.
It was pretty exciting. Do you guys have me now?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Loud and clear. No, it was a whirlwind trip. It was get up at 4 a.m., take the train up to Yankee Stadium, subway, all that fun stuff. It was a nice finish to what I think Maryland hopes is a breakthrough season. I don't think they expect to win a ton of Big Ten championships over the next decade, but I think in year 3 under Mike Loxley, they needed to get to a bowl game, especially with his recruits in place, especially with Talia Tagovailoa at quarterback. They needed to show progress They went from winning 25% of their games to 40% to over 50% this last year. So it was a great day to be up there at Yankee Stadium. I had not been there since the new stadium had been built.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. And like the score was like 54-10. And I'm not saying Boomer Esiason was playing that day for the Terps, but I was very shocked because I haven't seen Maryland put up 54 since they played Howard and beat them 7-0 in the first game of the year a couple of years ago. That's like unheard of.
Well, and the thing is, I think you have to take into account that Virginia Tech didn't have Braxton Burmeister. He's in the transfer portal. Also, coaching regime change. So there's a lot of different coaches in different spots. A lot of players opted out too for Virginia Tech. So this is probably the weakest Virginia Tech team that we've seen in some time. The fact that they were able to scrape to 6 wins, pretty impressive. Granted, you're going to beat Virginia 20 times out of 21 this century, but this was not a good Virginia Tech team, but Maryland played their way away from them. They didn't let Virginia Tech to hang around them after halftime. I think they outgained the Hokies 187-8 yards in that third quarter that provided them with the cushion.
Yeah, I know you don't cover Virginia Tech and the ACC. You do a lot of Big Ten, but what went wrong down there in Blacksburg? Because Justin Fuente came in to be that savior because of Frank Beamer leaving, and it looks like he's gone in 5 years. I guess it just went south real quickly.
Yeah, I think they lost sight of who they are, and when you think he's an offensive genius, so to speak, coordinator, I think TCU before really turning Memphis around. And while that's nice, Virginia Tech is a hard scrabble school. They're a school that you're going to win with defense. You're going to win with special teams. And even though Bud Foster stayed there, the longtime defensive coordinator, you never felt that things were really peachy there. You thought there was because if you're going to have Bud Foster stay there, why not make him the head coach? And for whatever reason, they elected not to. Maybe he wasn't head coaching material. I mean, I've covered a Maryland team that we've had. I've covered a Maryland team that went with Randy Edsall as opposed to Ralph Regent. And you went with the guy who looked like a candidate, looked like a head coach, as opposed to the guy who, he looks like a bumbling bureaucrat who might have mustard on his shirt or something along those lines. For whatever reason, it didn't work. They also didn't have quarterback stability at Virginia Tech. If you look at what went wrong with Mike London when he was at Virginia, they kept on churning out quarterbacks. It was a carousel. It became like that for Virginia Tech the last couple of years, where they didn't keep the guy long enough. Hendon Hooker transferred. They brought in a guy who they would make a quarterback change, and the new guy would play just well enough to make the old guy want to leave. So you never had any stability. If there's one thing that I think that Bronco Mendenhall did well while he was with Virginia, you had the same guy starting 1, 2, maybe even 3 years in a row. And I think that's the difference. That's why I think Virginia ascended the last 5 years. That's why Virginia Tech had issues.
Yeah. Go ahead, George.
So, Dave, I got to tell you, at least you guys don't have Randy Edsall anymore.
We miss there's a guy. I want his agent. The deal that he had from UConn, where he had bonuses for everything from leading at halftime to having a better red zone percentage. When if you're playing Navy and they're ripping off 35-yard runs, technically the midshipmen aren't succeeding in the red zone at that point in time. Part of me thinks that deal was incentive laden in such a way because they didn't want to commit enough money. Like when you see players get roster bonuses, which is basically part of his base, but technically it's a bonus. Randy had a lot of bonuses. And the thing is, you look at Maryland, you make a bad coaching hire in football, that burns you up for at least 5 years, maybe 10, because your next hire has to be so much better. My alma mater, Syracuse, made a bad hire. They brought in Greg Robinson back in, I think, 04, 05. It took them 10 years to get out of that crater that they put themselves in. Yeah. And I think when you look at what Maryland is doing, we had on WTOP.com, we had to name our Sportsman of the Year locally. And I actually nominated Damon Evans from the standpoint that he oversaw, and you have a football facility that is state of the art. We had a chance to tour it last year. And also, well, even though it was mutual, he definitely had a hand in Mark Turgeon departing on some level. No one will know, at least at this point in time. Yeah. But I think you look at what Maryland has done the last few years with the facilities and now making a bowl game and winning in impressive fashion. That can't hurt when you're trying to recruit. And that's the lifeblood of any program. It's not as much the X's and O's as it is the Jimmies and Joes.
Well, the winning brings in the recruits, right? And that's really what you got to go do. And I'll tell you, being a guy who was formerly lived in Connecticut, and I was a season ticket holder for UConn when I lived in Connecticut, Randy Edsall was just so predictable. We were calling his plays from the stands, and when he left the team in that way from Maryland, it was just brutal. But good for Maryland for turning the ship around, and this will be great for the recruiting.
One more thing about Maryland football, I talk about the quarterbacks, and at Virginia and Virginia Tech, Taulia Tagovailoa, the first Maryland quarterback to start every game since 2014. C.J. Brown, he's the second one to do so since 2006. Sam Hollenbach. Even though those two teams, I think one team went 9-4, another team went 7-6. You could say that the 2006 team was the best Phrygian team of his last 5 years in College Park. You could also say that the 2014 team that went 4-4 in the Big Ten was this close to having a winning record if they didn't implode against Rutgers. That was Randy Edsall's best team. So we live in a world where the offense is massaged. It's a quarterback's game, and having a good quarterback who stays healthy and is competent enough to keep his job, you can't undersell that enough. And they had that this year in Taulia Tagovailoa, and he's going to come back next year even better.
Exactly.
Beat Michigan and beat Ohio State.
And the thing is, you look at, I think Maryland football has reasonable expectations. They don't expect to beat the group of four, because Michigan State's kind of in that mix too. You've got Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. You don't expect to go 4-0 or even 2-2 against those teams. But if you beat one of those schools every 2 or 3 years, like they did last year when they went to Penn State and won, they beat Michigan years ago. They can hang with these schools. They almost beat Michigan State a few years ago as well, if I recall. You have to beat your dogs. You got to beat your Rutgers. You got to beat your Indiana. You have to you have to hope that you have a good crossover game, whether it's against Illinois or Nebraska's been spotty as of late. But if they can just squeeze out a 10-3 season once every 5 years, oh my goodness, they're going to build a statue for Locks.
Exactly. Well, Dave, let's segue over to the basketball. Last night, tough loss in Iowa. Yeah.
Hey, do we got it? Really?
Yeah, tough game out there in Iowa last night for the Terps. What do you think about Danny Manning after 5 games or 4 games?
I think he's in a very difficult situation. One, he hasn't been there that long. He's been there less than a calendar year. If they made Brady, who's Matt Brady's been there for a long time. If they elevated him into that role, because he at least knows these guys. I think it's he's in a tough situation. He's also in a job that was once held by one of his very good friends, a guy that he's known since he was 18 years old. So there are a lot of challenges. And then you throw in COVID, where they were swapping out opponents the week between Christmas and New Year's. We have covering basketball in and around the Beltway. I was supposed to be at Georgetown tonight. I was supposed to be there Saturday against St. John's. They haven't played in a few weeks. This is a very difficult situation, and this isn't a team, I think, that is built to win the Big Ten. I think, this is a team that's depending on Eric Ayala's shooting, and right now if they got to depend on him filling it up consistently, that's going to be tough, because they're not shooting the ball well. I think they're shooting just a little over a whisker over 30% from 3-point range. It's a game now where you got to get the ball in the hoop. That Julian Reese is maybe a year away from being a very good Big Ten big man. And right now, I would have thought that by now, or at least maybe in February, he would be getting the majority of those minutes. I think Qudus Wahab's a serviceable big guy. He was decent last year in the Big East. In the Big Ten, the trees are just a little bit bigger, and they call some of those fouls, unlike in the Big East, so to speak. So long season ahead. It's going to be a tough game at Illinois. That's a tough one. Then they come back and play Wisconsin. With luck, they might get to within a game or two of 500 in the Big Ten, but this has the look of a team that goes 7-13. No fault of their own. It's just the roster they've got. It's going to be tough to squeeze some wins out, and it's going to be a challenge for Coach Manning to get things done with this team, to get them in position, so to speak.
Yeah, I think Matt Brady should be. I thought he would have been the interim coach because he has experience. And same with Danny Manning, yeah, but I knew Matt Brady from JMU. Yeah, he was down there for a couple of years. Yeah.
It's amazing that Brady left James Madison, but when I had heard stuff that the facilities and things of that vein weren't ideal because he let him do a tournament. He led him to a conference championship a few years ago. Who knows? Maybe now with James Madison going into the Sun Belt, maybe that all of a sudden becomes. Maybe that some of that Sun Belt and FBS money comes in, and that upgrades that basketball job because the CAA used to be a fantastic league, and then everybody left. Everybody left the party, unfortunately. I think right now with Maryland, tough road ahead in Champaign. Kofi Coburn's a fantastic player. Illinois. I don't believe they're ranked right now. I voted in the AP top 25. They were my last team out of the rankings this past week. They're a team that once conference play gets underway and everything settles and you're comparing apples to apples as opposed to who has the best blowout and buyout wins, I think Illinois is probably going to be in the top 25, if not next week by the end of the month.
So when's your next women's basketball game you're going to broadcast in Maryland? Thursday?
Well, fingers are crossed. We're not doing Thursday's game. I believe it's the 27th of this month. They play Rutgers. That's our next broadcast. And then we've got, I believe, 2 in March. We always try to get it a couple more. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do a few more. But this is a team that I think picked by many to win the Big Ten. They have a very short bench. Diamond Miller is still not 100%. They need her to get healthy, stay healthy, and unfortunately, some teams they just throw they over recruit. Brenda's never over recruited. Head coach Brenda Freeze, and it's every so often there's a year where a couple kids go down with knee injuries. There was one year where they lost 2 or 3 kids, and it felt like she was holding the roster together with duct tape and paper clips. So they're going to be good. They're going to be in that top 2 or 3 of the Big Ten. The schedule is backloaded where they play the best team. They play their last 4 games. I think they play Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, and I think Indiana in the last 4 games of the regular season. So we'll find out how good this team is at the end of February. I think they're very good. They need to work their way through a few things because previous teams would have won Sunday's game at Indiana. It was a tough overtime loss. They're banged up, but I've seen Brenda take some teams into some arenas where they've just been the situation hasn't been there and they've still found a way to win.
Exactly. Well, Dave, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I know you're a busy guy, and be safe out there with the weather and all that stuff, and enjoy the games this week.
Certainly, gentlemen. My pleasure. I'll be at Maryland plays Wisconsin Sunday night, so that should be a fun one. And 2, that suit is not mine. I borrowed it. It's a loaner. Read the article on WTOP.com. The suit is not mine, even though it is in my closet. So possession is not 9/10 of the law where that's concerned. Thanks again for having me on, gentlemen.
Thanks, Dave. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dave.
Happy New Year.
Take care.
See ya. All right, that's Dave Preston, sports anchor and reporter for WPOT here in Maryland and down there in D.C. Speaking of Maryland football, George, I think it's one of your kids when you were growing up, you always wanted do really well at Yankee Stadium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you want to hit that 2 home runs that beat the Yankees or win the game for the Yankees. For me, I want to beat the Yankees because I hate them. Yeah. Hey, I'm a Met fan.
You're playing that stadium across town.
Hey, Citi Field. So anyway, this guy, well, basically from Maryland has you can tell his grandkids when he gets older, he caught 2 touchdown passes at Yankee Stadium. That's almost close to 2 home runs or a walk-off, at Yankee Stadium. I think that's pretty cool. So I asked him during the Zoom call after the game. So here's Daryl Jones's answer.
We'll go to Chris Heidel.
Hey, this question is for Daryl. Daryl, congratulations on the game. What's it like catching 2 touchdowns in Yankee Stadium? That must be one of those cool moments that you're always going to remember when you get my age.
Yeah, for it being our first bowl and being my first 2 touchdowns scoring in Yankee Stadium is like thinking it like when it happened, I wasn't really thinking about it. I'm just like, let's keep going. Like let's beat them. Let's go. Let's keep going. But like thinking about it, it really is crazy. This is my first time being here, first time scoring, first time bowl game. So like I'll definitely remember this because like I'll tell this story for I don't know how many years, but it's definitely special.
Go back to Lauren Rosh.
That is pretty cool. I'm going to say that was pretty cool. Yeah.
It's just because it's Yankee Stadium.
Hey, anything's pretty cool for him.
You do anything involving the number 2 in that stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It's special.
Yes. I got to ask you a question about Yankee Stadium. They do when they hit a home run in the right field, it's like a launching pad because of that jet stream. Is it true? Or because I know the first year when they opened up that ballpark, it was home runs going out, left and right into right field.
Chris, you know my story about Yankee Stadium, right?
Yeah, no.
That's why you're asking me the question? I can't see a home run hit in Yankee Stadium from the seat that I was sitting in. Because of the viewing obstruction.
Dude, I was there for the World Series a couple of years ago, and I could tell there's some viewing obstruction, and they put a big sign on there going, you know what, viewing obstruction, you can't see. I'm like, why do you sell tickets to people for that?
They put a little TV the size of my computer monitor.
Yeah.
They put that on the cement wall, and that's how you're supposed to watch the game. I didn't come here to watch TV.
You came here to watch a game.
Exactly. Well, you really don't need
a viewing obstruction in right center field. Come on.
Exactly. We need to talk to the Steinbrenner brothers for that one. I
got to go back to therapy again, Chris. Thanks a lot.
They'll just hang up the phone on you. So speaking of places, he's falling off. Oh my God! I got a gift for you at 8:30, so you better stick around for that. So anyway, let's bring in Mario. The head coach at women's basketball, Pharr,
Mario
Pharr. So Mario Pharr. Thank you, Steve. Mario Pharr with us. Thanks for chiming in there, Chief. Yeah, appreciate it. So Mario, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year. How's everything going there at the? Did you guys get done with practice?
Yeah, we just finished up practice not too long ago, man. And Happy New Year to you guys.
Yeah, so talk about your season so far. I know it's been this COVID situation. Your games got canceled with Delaware Tech. Are they going to reschedule those games, or that's like?
We are trying to get it rescheduled. This COVID thing is the worst. But yeah, we're trying to get it rescheduled.
All over again.
And our next game should be Monday against Hagerstown.
Talk about that game coming up against Hagerstown. You guys play before the men's game, so what time is that game? Is it like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or?
Yeah, it'll be at 5. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was trying to find the schedule, and they put to be announced. I'm like really? Yeah. So anyway, talk about your team. I know you guys it's all freshmen, they're all second-year kids, and this is a community college. Mm-hmm. Just talk about your young ladies and how they're. Is there any bright players on your squad?
Yeah, as you know, we're pretty powerhouse program usually in women's basketball. But it's actually, I just got hired during this summer. So we're kind of going through a transitional year, but I still think we finally getting to our to where we're progressing pretty well to where we got a pretty good winning streak, 3-game win streak right before the break and everything. Just ready to get back to it. We only got 7 girls, but again, we just try to make it throughout the year. And like I said, now that we got our, we know who we are, and we're able to definitely, like I said, hopefully finish up pretty well.
Yeah, you have 7 girls on your roster. That's kind of hard, keeping that. You got to basically keep them fresh. How do you keep 7 players fresh, knowing that that's all you got?
Yeah, that's another great question. Just rotate as best we can, work them in and out. And that was one of the things I had to work with toward the beginning of the year. I made some changes, talked to my coaching staff and everything. We made a few changes. We got really 2 good bigs on our squad. And I think it's better for us to have them basically replace each other. So we basically got 4 guards out there, and then have the 2 bigs to replace each other, and have the other player come in whenever others need a break. But I have probably 2 or 3 that pretty much plays the entire game.
Jeez. Steve, you got any questions for Mario?
Yeah, just thing there with HCC. What's it like been playing since this whole COVID era took effect, for what we've been dealing with the last couple of years, and now it's, new guidelines coming out. How is the team coping with that?
Well, with COVID, like I said, it's been a struggle, but we've been able to maintain as best we can. I know Coach Meach said that we got protocol to where we have to wear masks during practice and stuff like that. And like I said, we do all the proper measurements and things that we need. We had a couple games to where we had to get tested and stuff to be able to play those teams and stuff like that. Everything that we have to do regarding every single protocol, we're crossing every T, dotting every I, to where we make sure that we stay healthy, especially with just 7 girls. It is a struggle, but we try to do what we can to stay healthy to get throughout the season.
Also, what would you say is your toughest opponent you've played this year so far?
I would say Howard Community College. I think that was one of the most competitive teams that we played so far. We had a couple bad losses toward the beginning of the year. But again, like I said, it was us trying to figure things out, us trying to build our chemistry and everything with Garrett and Potomac State. But they're both in our conference, and we actually be able to play them again as conference game later in our season. And I'm so excited about that because I know we'll be able to compete much better than we did the first time. But coming up, I think Essex is probably be the best, most competitive team. I think they're top 10 in the nation in D2 JUCO. So pretty dominant team, but I think we'll be pretty well prepared for them as best we can.
Yeah. George, go ahead.
So I can hear Coach Pharr before he starts his game. His 2 things are no one gets injured and no fouls.
Exactly.
No injuries, no fouls, because you're going to play.
Right. Exactly.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no reserve on the bench. There's no coming off the bench here. You're all starters.
That's right. And that was one of the things too. Like I had to adjust because we came out with a few zones and stuff like that. But playing a 3-2 matchup zone, I think, helped us a lot to be able to maintain throughout, and even with the foul trouble as well. Because we had a couple games where, a couple girls fouled out. We had to finish with 5, had to finish with 4 a couple times with an injury and foul out. So, like I said, there's been some major adjustments. But like I said, we figure out who we are. And like I said, we progressed tremendously, and I hope we'll be able to finish out the season pretty well.
Yeah, we need to do like one of these like reality TV shows for you. Like we need more players. Let's do like get some of the young ladies. And can anybody just sign up for to help you guys out? Or because I know the winter semester starts soon, and there's going to be some people going to be like, hey, I can play basketball.
Right. Yeah. So as long as they're full-time students in both semesters. I've been going through a lot of events and stuff on campus and seeing, players and girls all the time. Hey, you want to play basketball? Hey, you want to play basketball? So I've been asking, trying to get, one or two, maybe more girls to help us out. And I've actually gotten another girl to be added to the squad. But we lost one due to grades and everything. So, we went from 7 and then we'll stay at 7, basically adding the new girl.
Yeah. So just talk about, that nice arena. We had the men's coach on in the beginning of the show, Coach Meach, but it's been around for like 10 years or so. It's still a nice arena.
It is.
Yeah, I played at the old, I don't want to call it a dump, but it was part of
it was dark. It was like, you felt like you were gonna get mugged every time you walked in there.
It was and the lights were so dingy. It was like you walked in there, you felt like you're not in a basketball arena or a athletic department. It looked like you were like in some library.
Yeah.
Walked around, you're like,
either that or you're gonna walk in there and somebody's gonna put a light in your face and say, "Okay, boys, start talking."
Yeah, we use that basically as the aux gym, as the practice gym now. I think that's the place that y'all probably played. But the facility, we have one of the best places. And as Coach Meach said, we got a lot of events and stuff. And one of the big events, prep basketball event this weekend. And I love the place. And as best we can, we try to fill it up, with as much fans and stuff as we can. And like I said, we'd love to have as much support as we can for our game.
Exactly. So, Coach Mario, just talk about this game real quick about coming up on Monday. Hagerstown's a good, opponent, and his Maryland JUCO League is very good as well. Because I know when I was there at school for 10 years, I was trying to get the Van Wilder Award, get the a building named after me, but it didn't work that well, But anyway, that Maryland JUCO League has been very competitive over the years, and I'm very surprised how that league could stay together with all the, everybody could transfer after 1 year.
Yeah, well, with Hagerstown this upcoming Monday, we'll be able to prepare. We got a little time, especially now that we don't have the Thursday game. Got all the girls back and everything, especially with the weather on Monday or yesterday. So we'll have time to be able to prepare for them. But yeah, the Maryland JUCO, man, they're pretty competitive. Like I said, it is, I would say 4 or 5 teams that I know for sure that are pretty good every single year. Definitely Essex. Like I said, Catesville is usually pretty good. Catesville, excuse me. And Howard has been pretty dominant the past few years. But like I said, Potomac and Garrett, we played them early in the season. And they're actually pretty good programs. They have some, pretty good players on their team. I think they've been playing for quite some time together. It seems like they have pretty good chemistry. So, pretty good program. But in the past, like I said, we've been pretty dominant. And me taking over this position, I still want to stay that way. Like I said, we've been doing well, and I want to continue to do well. Had this 3-game win streak, and hopefully we can keep that streak alive.
Exactly. Well, for next week, for Monday's game, people could go to the Harford County, Harford, Community College website and find out if there's people allowed in the stands. People, because there's all this new thing. I feel like they're going backwards instead of forwards.
That's another good question. I think it may be some limitations. I don't think it's been totally confirmed, but as of right now, we allow guests with masks and everything, as long as you come with masks and stuff, and from your group, as long as you stay 6 feet away from the other people, not in your group and stuff like that. That's how we've been maintaining throughout the year. And as far as I know, until we get some new, protocols, it will be for fans from here on out.
Yeah. George, you got anything else?
I just wish Coach the best of luck with 7 players. That takes patience.
It does. It does.
Yeah. So you can go to the HartfordAthletic.com for more information for next week's game. They probably put something on the front page, let people know, what's going on. And Coach Mario, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll keep in touch with you throughout the season.
Sounds great, man. Thank you very much.
Happy New Year,
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's Coach Mario Pharr with Pharr, the women's basketball.
think of
Pharr.
Pharr, yeah.
Farr, not.
Yeah. Well, it's getting time for some people to leave. So hold on a second. I think we got a message from Antonio Brown.
Peace out.
Peace out, yo. Hey, it's Ewan. It's running.
It's very sad, by the way.
I know. It is really sad how that happened, But I think it's really funny. We got to use that as our, our 8:30. Let everybody know it's 8:30. Half an hour left in the show because somebody used to be here on the show. Used to get off at 8:30. Like, yeah, there we go. He's gone. Be gone.
Be gone.
Be gone. Before we get Ben on, I did download George the Duke's Mayo Bowl. He asked me over the weekend about the Mayo shot.
That was when I saw that I missed it, but let me tell you, oh my goodness!
Look at this. I feel bad for Coach Beamer. He got a concussion.
He's like, this sucks. He's like, this sucks.
Look, he gets smacked him in the back of the head. Boom! I'm like, ew.
Dude, it's like, you know what that's like? It's like when you hit the Heinz 57 logo on the ketchup bottle. They had to hit his head so it would loosen up the rest of the mayo and be able to pour out on top of him.
Yeah. Let's just show that again for the folks who just logged in. Okay, here we go. He gets the check. He's like, yeah, I'm great. Thanks for the money.
Here's your $10,000.
Yeah. Here goes the two young ladies. Nothing against the two young ladies, but 4.5 pounds of mayo. And then, boom, right in the back of the head. Yeah, I was like...
Just think about all the oil and egg that has gone into that.
Yeah.
Thank God he had the hat on. That saved him.
Thank God. And I think he's still picking it out of his ears. I guess if you need mayo, you call Shane Beamer. It's like, good Lord. Yeah.
I couldn't believe that someone ponied up to $10,000. That's awesome.
That is pretty good. That's pretty good. That's cool. That somebody did that for charity because they need to help out for charity. But,
yep.
Yeah. So let's bring in Ben Dickson, who covers the women's basketball. So Ben, how you doing for the Lady Terps? How are you doing?
Good. How are you guys? I appreciate the laying there with the Duke's Mayo Bowl. One of my favorite moments of the year.
Yeah. Have you done anything weird with any of your friends? Like it was like at a party, and you just want to fire somebody with
Nothing like that, man. Nothing like that.
I don't think we had that at my brother's parties. I don't think so. I think we had a keg toss. I know that.
It's never on my bingo card.
No, definitely not.
So the women's basketball back on the road. At home Thursday night after a tough road loss to Indiana. So what did Coach Freeze said after the game on Sunday? It was a tough. It had to go to overtime. Horses.
Yeah, obviously, really tough game. Indiana's a great team. Obviously, she had plenty to say good about them. But I think when you talk about this game, Angel Reese and Don Miller were really the two only players that had a big impact in the game. Ashley Owusu struggled for most of the game. And I think it was only 20 points combined from the starting lineup outside of Angel, which obviously isn't going to cut it. 19 turnovers, 21 field goals. So she obviously expressed some disappointment with that. She expressed some concern with Faith Masonis, key defensive player off the bench, one of the smartest players on the team. She looked like she blew out her knee, non-contact. Haven't heard anything on that front. But, Freeze definitely disappointed, but understanding that, it's only January 4th today. It was January 2nd, the game, and it's Maryland basketball. They still have some time to figure it out before March.
Yeah, they're playing Penn State on Thursday, but the problem with Penn State, they had some COVID outbreaks during the Christmas vacation time. So, any news about the game getting, or all systems go?
Haven't heard anything on that front. I know there's media availability tomorrow, so they're planning like it's happening Thursday. And COVID or not for Penn State, that's probably a game that Maryland should expect to win by a pretty big margin.
Yeah. So you've been covering the women's team for the season so far. What do they look like, in person? Because they seem like they're just the same, bunch of ladies from last year who made it all the way to Texas, and they lost to they did lose to Texas, right?
Yeah, lost to Texas in the Sweet 16. I mean, it's tough to say considering that the team really hasn't had a full roster until the game against Indiana this past weekend, and then Faith Masonius goes down. If she's out for an extended period of time, it's like, all right, you got to move on from there. And there's only 7 deep. But yeah, I mean, I've yet on the beat. I haven't seen Diamond Miller in person yet. So I mean, that game against Indiana was really the first game she was in action aside from Coppin State, which I mean wouldn't have mattered either way. But yeah, I mean, as of right now, I think you're right with that sentiment. They do look like a team that could probably get knocked out in the Sweet 16. But like Brenda was saying over the weekend, it's a good thing that it is only early January right now, and it will take some time for them to get used to playing with Diamond Miller again. Obviously, all Big Ten player, all American potential, such a great player for the players to get used to playing with her again. But only 7 deep, so with Faith out.
Steve, you got anything? George, you got anything?
Well, it's just like the coach we had on before, Coach Pharr. There's 2 rules coming up. There's two things coming from the coach: no fouls and no injuries, because there's nobody else to fill in. But Ben, seriously, going back to that discussion, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing that people need to keep in mind, for as far as getting to March. You lay the foundation now to get better, and the adversity would actually make a team better. And not that I want to go back and talk about Notre Dame, but they did that back to the year that I think they won the national championship. They had faced adversity all season. They had a short bench, and it only makes you better. So if there's anything that Maryland can learn from this is learn to play with what you have. And you basically, when you get everyone back healthy, you should be that much better.
Right. And I mean, by no means is it time to hit the panic button with this team or anything. The 4 teams they've lost to are all in the top 6 in the country. Sure. And they have a win over Baylor where they did that without limited Diamond Miller, and because she got hurt again that game, and Faith Masonius and Katie Benson weren't playing in that game either. So that was remarkable. And the 2 losses to the Bahamas were with basically 5 players in your rotation, and you got 2 bench warmers who are kind of playing significant minutes for you against top 4 teams in the country, which isn't going to happen. And right, you look at the team now, the schedule is going to open up. You got Penn State, Minnesota. You'll have a couple hard games with Michigan and Ohio State, but from there on, the schedule really doesn't get too tough until those last 3 games of the season with rematches against Ohio State, Michigan, and Indiana. So I think the schedule lays out where you'll see the team start to maybe pick up some wins in these stretch, get the chemistry gets a little bit better, and I think they'll be just fine. There's no reason to really panic here.
Exactly. Well, Ben, let me let you go because we're up to our time schedule here. So thank you so much for coming on, buddy, and we'll get you on during the rest of the season. So
of course, anytime. You guys let me know.
Appreciate you coming on. Enjoy the game Thursday night.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
New Year, Ben. See you, man.
Happy New Year to you guys.
Ben.
All right, that's Ben Dickson, who writes for the student paper there at Maryland. So 8:38. Let's bring in Colter Nuanez, who writes for who covers the Montana for Skyline Sports out there in beautiful Montana. So Colter, thanks so much for coming on. How's the weather? I know you're in a nice control environment, but is it colder than what Zach was in his car?
Oh man, well it's funny because I'm from Montana and I've lived here on and off for the last 20 years, and it's funny to say this. It's in the high 20s right now, and that is significantly warmer than we expect this time of year. But I'm sitting here in Missoula. I run ESPN Radio for the state of Montana as well. We're partners. ESPN and Skyline Sports are partners, and it's been a big collaboration with my daily radio show, Nuanez, now as well. So I'm sitting in the ESPN studios in Missoula. But where Montana State sits, about 200 miles east of here, is even more significantly cold than it is here in the Missoula Valley. And today in Bozeman, it was -2. But that's nothing compared to what it was in Fargo. It was -21 in Fargo today. So we got 2 cold weather teams playing in a warm weather game in Texas on Saturday.
Steve was asking, is that with the wind chill or without the wind chill?
No, that's right. Well, I don't think anybody's brave enough to go outside and actually feel it. I don't know, but no, I talked to Matt Entz.
No, I don't think it's
go
too
ahead.
cold to go outside. I think we're going to stay inside today.
That's why you Zoom.
That's right.
You don't go anywhere. You just Zoom. Yeah.
That's
I use weather gauges outside.
So let's talk about this game coming up on Saturday. We had the voice of the Bobcats on earlier. What's your take on this game against the powerhouse, almost like the Alabama of the subdivision?
Well, from a on the field perspective, I think we'll get to that in a minute. But just in terms of sort of the narrative that exists in the FCS and sort of the confluence of events that have occurred at Montana State over the last several months, this is an unbelievable story, especially for people in this neck of the woods. I'm sure you guys are at least sort of familiar with in Montana, North Dakota, Idaho. There's no pro sports, and so the Division I teams are absolutely like the pro teams. I mean, people are obsessed with Montana and Montana State football. I mean, that's what I've been able to build my whole career on. And even though there's only about 1 million people in the state of Montana, pretty much every one of them cares about college football because, as we always say, in Montana, pretty postcards and football. Those are our two main exports, right? I mean, football is the thing that most people relate to Montana because the Montana schools have been on ESPN and have had such a national brand and impact for the last 25, 30 years. That said, forever and ever, Montana was the dominant program in the FCS, formerly the Division I AA level. And since Montana has taken a back seat, that gave this awesome opportunity for North Dakota State to rise, and they've sat on the throne now for 10 years. And I think that a lot of people thought that if anybody was ever to catch back up and try to dethrone the Bison, it was going to be the Grizz, not the Bobcats. Well, Montana State has had so much institutional momentum, and the city of Bozeman has grown so explosively over the last couple of years that Montana State and that neck of the woods in the world has just become such a huge hot spot. I mean, I moved to Bozeman in 2010 to start covering Montana State. It was a 35,000 person town. Bozeman's like 110,000 people now. So it's almost tripled in size in 10 years, which is an amazing growth number, especially for a place, where it's 0 degrees half the year. So all that's to say, though, the fact is that, the rivalry game in Montana is such a big deal. And Montana State lost the rivalry game this year after winning it 5 years in a row. And in this sweet irony, that's what's launched the Cats on this epic run. And so the fact that, they had the gusto to bench their starting quarterback, who was a former 4-star recruit, a former NC State starter, and go with a freshman. And then the fact that they've had a bunch of the dominoes fall their way, and they got an extra home game in the playoffs. And now here they are surging into Fargo. It's a pretty unbelievable story. And then you talk about this Montana State group. They are probably, at least in accomplishment and in total wins, the best senior class in their program's history. Well, they lost in the playoffs in 2018 to North Dakota State. They lost in the playoffs in 2019 to North Dakota State. So I have no idea how this game is going to play out on Saturday. I don't think NDSU is as intimidating as they've been in the past. I mean, easy to say because they've had top 3 picks at quarterback 2 times in the last 10 years. So, I don't think anybody else in the country can say that. So North Dakota State maybe not as mighty as they once were, but just in terms of sort of the confluence of events that have led us to this point, pretty fun, pretty cool story for people in Montana, but also pretty cool for people in the region because I do think that the North Dakota State, they love having rivalries with the Montana schools as well. So just in terms of storylines, this is a really rich one. This is going to be a fun game to sort of lead up to it and then cover down in Frisco on Saturday.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be cool. And like you said, it's small town football. We hear there's a place in Harrisonburg, Virginia, James Madison. I was talking to coaches a long time ago, and I said, do you ever get away from people? He goes, no, I have a press conference in the milk aisle. Because, that's how they, small town USA. It's like even up in Newark, Delaware. You can't even coaches for Delaware football can't get out of their house on Sunday if they do something wrong on Sunday because they just want to have a press conference right at the intersection.
No doubt. I mean, truly, Brent Vigen, the head coach for Montana State, and Bobby Hauck, the head coach of Montana. I mean, I don't even really know if it was an argument. I think that those two guys are the most famous people in the state of Montana. I think that they're the most well-known guys in the state and most well-recognizable names. And it's true, I mean, people want to talk to you about football all day, every day, no matter where you're at. And that's one of the beauties of what we do. That's what I love about doing the job here in the Treasure State.
Go ahead, George.
So Colter, as we said earlier, we talked earlier with one of the other folks, I was out there in Montana, out there in June. I just love the fact that it snowed in June out in Yellowstone.
Right.
It was absolutely awesome seeing snow on my birthday. But we also talked in between guests that I said that they should have that game. If you have two teams deep in the Midwest traveling south to Texas to play that game should be an outside game for these two teams to play. Put it outside. Let these two north Midwestern teams fight it out in the elements.
The funniest part about North Dakota State is Fargo is really one of the only places in the country that gets colder than Montana. They don't ever have to go outside. They got not one, but right. I mean, they also have 2 indoor practice facilities. I mean, they have better facilities than all of the schools of this division, and certainly as good as most of the schools outside, maybe the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, they have excellent facilities, and that's been a part of their rise to success. But I mean, that's the thing. They got 12 guys on their roster, North Dakota State does, from Florida. And because they can recruit those guys and tell them, hey, not only do we have 2 indoors, not only do we play inside, half the teams in our league, Northern Iowa, South Dakota State, South Dakota, I guess South Dakota State plays outside now, but South Dakota, Northern Iowa, I mean, there's half the teams in the Missouri Valley. They also play in domes. So you can recruit a kid from Florida and say, hey, man, you might only play outside like 3 or 4 times in your whole career. And that's been a key to their success, no doubt.
So I gave my prediction to Chris earlier. I said 38-26 Montana State. In order for that to happen, what's got to happen on the offense and what's got to happen on the defense?
Well, I'm sure Zach Mackey, the voice of the Bobcats, touched on it a little bit, but I guess to say this as concisely as possible, MSU has had one of the most prolific run games in the FCS level for several years in a row. And a lot of that was spurred on by having a couple of the best running quarterbacks in the history of the FCS division. And then during the regular season, Matt McKay was more of a game manager, the kid who ended up entering the transfer portal and dipping out after the regular season finale. And that has sort of been this unbelievable spark for Montana State because they've gone with this true freshman in Tommy Mellott who's just taken the entire world by storm. And the kid was the 5th-string quarterback in April, and now he's looking like one of the best players in the United States of America. I mean, he carried the ball 34 times for almost 160 yards in the semis against South Dakota State. And, oh, by the way, he threw for another 230 and 2 more scores. I mean, a couple weeks ago against Sam Houston, this kid rushed for 2 touchdowns, threw a touchdown, and caught a touchdown in the first 17 minutes of a game. I've never seen that before, getting the trifecta before the first quarter is over. Pretty impressive. So I think that's the entire matchup of this game. NDSU is tried and true in their formula. You know, they're going to run the ball right at you. They're going to play tough defense. They're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're not going to let you have huge plays or big momentum swings. But I think this really comes down to NDSU will have somebody for Tommy Mellott in the +1 run game, the quarterback run game. NDSU is definitely going to have a plan to try to slow down Montana State's rushing attack as a whole. And on the other side, they're going to be deliberate and then really just try to test the Bobcat defense. So what could be the X factor? It's Tommy Mellott throwing the ball down the field, which he's done with incredible efficiency during his time as the starting quarterback, which only is 3 games. He was riding the Lightning so much. I mean, he had such an unbelievable hot streak to get him to this point. Does the 3-week break impede that? Can they carry that momentum? And just can he make the throws? North Dakota State is going to challenge him to throw back shoulder fades against one-on-one coverage. He did it against Sam Houston, and he was money. He did it against South Dakota State, and he was money. But can he do it when a team's had 3 weeks to prepare for him and he doesn't have an element of surprise? We'll see. But I think that the key factor, it all comes down to, can Tommy Mellott, a true freshman, go out and win the football game for Montana State?
Exactly. Well, Colter, thanks very much for coming on tonight, and enjoy the trip to Frisco. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, sounds good. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Happy New Year.
All right, man. Happy New Year. All right, so don't waste any time. Let's bring Dan Wolken, who is from the USA Today. Hi, Dan. Sorry for that. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Just talk about this big weekend of football. It starts Saturday with the North Dakota State and Montana State, and ends Monday with Alabama and Georgia. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, really interesting national championship game, rematch of the SEC championship. I know that probably bothers a lot of people, but I think it's pretty interesting because the first game just did not go the way anyone thought it was going to go. And so I think both teams are really good, and they'll have to change some things and make some adjustments. And I think it's really up for grabs.
Were you surprised about Cincinnati holding Alabama very closely during that game? It seems like Alabama and it looked like Cincinnati looking at that one play. Maybe there's a play that I think I saw it in the second quarter when when Alabama fumbled the ball. They didn't get the ball back, but if Cincinnati got it, it would have been on the 20, and it would have been a different story. I felt like that might be a turning point.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama was much better. Cincinnati really struggled to move the ball. I mean, you can go back and look and say, hey, if one or two plays goes the other way early in the game, maybe that changes the dynamic a little bit. That's fair. It was a muffed punt, actually. I think it was 10-3 at the time. And maybe if Cincinnati gets the ball and scores touchdown there, then yeah, possibly. But if you look at it, I mean, Cincinnati only had like 230 yards in the game. They just struggled to move the ball. And that was kind of what I thought would happen. They did a good job pressuring Bryce Young, and he didn't have, an unbelievable game or anything, but it never really felt to me like Alabama was in any trouble.
Yeah. George, go ahead.
So when at the beginning of the season, we had one of the folks on from Georgia, and it was really interesting that he wasn't sure where Georgia was going to be if they can beat Clemson. And, being that, I cover Notre Dame and, and seeing a lot of Clemson because Notre Dame plays in the ACC, that's really, I think, what started Georgia's season. I think that put them in a completely different direction. When you go back and when you look at things, I think them beating Clemson really set the tone for their season.
Well, I mean, that was kind of an ugly game, and it was a defensive game. Clemson at that time was really struggling on offense. And I understand what you're saying. I mean, that was a huge matchup week one, and everyone knew that the winner of that game was going to basically pocket a really good win starting out the season. But, I think for Georgia, they've been a dominant defense all season long. I don't know that game changed anything. I think it just showed us how good they were defensively. Clemson couldn't do anything with the ball in that game. And really, that's how Georgia's played from start to finish, except for the SEC championship. And that's what makes what's going to happen Monday so interesting was that game out of character or did it expose them? And they'll get another shot at it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they handle it.
Well, Dan, just talk about Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame's been they got a new coach, Coach Freeman, who took over for Brian Kelly, who wants to be playing down in the bayou right now. I guess he's fishing for crawfish or doing whatever he's doing down there. But what do you think about Coach Freeman's first game is in the Fiesta Bowl? I know they had a big lead, but it seems like they lost it at the end. So is that something they need to fix in the offseason? Because now it seems like the expectations are very low, not as it was going to be very high.
I don't put too much stock in one game. It's, look, certainly it's a game they could have won, and they made some mistakes down the stretch, but I don't put much stock in it. And obviously for Marcus Freeman, first-time head coach, that's not easy, especially at a program like Notre Dame. There's going to be some growing pains. He's going to have to learn a lot, and he's probably going to do it next year. Whenever you're a first-time head coach, I mean, there's just a lot to learn about how to handle everything and manage the situation from the sideline. But they knew that when they hired him. They knew that he wasn't a finished product. He's 35 years old, 37 years old, something like that. I mean, he's just a really young guy. So I'm sure it's disappointing to lose that game when you had the lead and it slipped away. But I don't want to necessarily put too much pressure on him right out of the gates. I think the the real test for them is going to be how they recruit, and from week to week, do they win the games they're supposed to win? Brian Kelly was really good at that. And, as long as they're not losing to bad teams, then I think the end result will be what people want.
George, you got one more question for Dan before we let him go at the top, in a couple minutes.
What's your choice? What's your call for the weekend? Alabama or Georgia?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting game. I think Georgia will win. I think I've sort of talked myself into that. I think they just had a bad game plan first time out against Alabama. They didn't bring enough pressure. They didn't do enough to make Bryce Young uncomfortable. And I think they're going to come with more guys blitzing. I think they're going to give him different looks. And if they're able to do that, I just think it's crazy to say that a team is more talented than Alabama, but I really do believe that this Georgia team, top to bottom, has more elite players. Now, Alabama without John Mechie on offense, that's a big loss. Bryce Young's a difference maker. He's an X factor. If he has an unbelievable game, he had the best game of his career so far in the SEC championship. He's going to have to do that again, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not sure he can, because I think Georgia will come in with a much better game plan.
Yeah. Well, Dan, real quick, I got to ask you a question. Out of all the bowl games, besides the one that got canceled and UCLA decided to back out in 2 minutes before that game in the Holly Bowl, is there one team that stood out in these bowl games going, we need to watch that team for next year?
Well, I don't put too much stock in the bowl games generally because teams have guys opt out. They're maybe not the best version of themselves. It's just a unique scenario. There's no other sport that really has something like the bowl season. Now, you've got the playoff, and obviously the playoff is a different beast because it determines the national championship. Everybody's at full strength. Everyone's at 100%. I'm not sure how much carries over from the bowl games to the next year. I mean, it's really, again, I don't really know. I just sort of take them as good entertainment and kind of move on. And, like the Tennessee-Purdue game, nobody really thought that was going to be some amazing game. But lo and behold, it was probably the most entertaining finish of the entire bowl season. So, what does that mean? I'm not sure. But I just think you look at all of these teams and so much time till next season, transfer portal, all that stuff. I don't really necessarily want to color my opinion on teams based on what they did in the bowl game.
Exactly. Well, Dan, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I know you're a busy guy. Happy New Year and enjoy this weekend, and we'll keep in touch.
Happy New Year. Thanks, guys.
Happy New Year.
All right,
Happy New Year, Dan.
All right, let's see. Wolken, the national columnist for USA Today. I think that was a decent question because I know next year everybody puts in stock of people, this team looked great against this team in the bowl game, and they come out and go, flatline. So
Look at Clemson.
Exactly. Well, speaking of Notre Dame, this gentleman right here had a chance to talk to Coach Freeman the other day. Yeah, we're talking about George. All about George right here. Let's play George's question 2, Coach Freeman, about the fan base after that loss to Oklahoma State. So here it is.
You said a lot there in your opening statement, but what is the driving message back to the fan base in South Bend?
Well, they deserve a winning product. They deserve a team that every week goes out there and wins. And so it's our job to make sure that we prepare and we do everything necessary to give this team, the fan base, the university, and everybody else that deserves a really, really good product out on that field. So we'll get back to work. That's the only thing we know how to do. And win or lose, we're going to get back to work, and we're going to find ways to improve and make sure that we're even more prepared.
Yeah, not bad. Good question, dude. I think they got to give him a free because I think that's just a honeymoon thing. It was like, he was had to go recruit. B, he got hired. He got to deal with the Brian Kelly fallout. He was trying to keep everybody on tack. That guy must have been tired by the time that game was over.
I think OSU was very smart in that game. They let Notre Dame become one-dimensional in the pass game.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, the Notre Dame's defense is holding. And then the second half, they make the adjustments in the locker room, and all of a sudden, Notre Dame doesn't go back to the run game. They continue going to the pass, but they can never get the run game going. I think OSU was very smart, and then all those passing yards, they kept it in front of them for the most part, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very interesting and how all that played out.
Exactly. Well, we're going to wrap up the show here next week. We got another show here at 7:30 next Tuesday night, but at 8 o'clock next Tuesday night, we got Chris Barnes from the Professional Bowlers Tour, who bowled one of the perfect games on TV. This is way back a couple of years ago, and one of those.
Then I watched this game live.
And so he was basically a couple shots away. Look at his kids are now. He's actually out in Vegas right now for his son bowling in the U.S. amateur right now.
I gotta.
It's like, wow, your kids are getting big, man.
Like following in Dad's footsteps.
Yeah, and his mom's bowling too.
I have the same form, by the way.
You know, is that the weed form or the or you just this is George getting over the 12th for the 12th strike. Yeah,
I need to see what kind of ball he has. I'm wondering if he's throwing a nitro. I think the nitro was purple.
But we talked to.
Knows, nobody has more perfect games at Wii bowling than this guy right here.
I think he's throwing a nitro.
Yeah. So anyway, he'll be on next Tuesday night at 8 o'clock to talk about his son and bowling in the amateur, and also getting ready for the men's tour and the senior tour this year. So Chris Barnes, who basically we've seen him grow from being a rookie,
the early days at Forest Hill when we would do the play-by-play up there in early 2000s.
Exactly. Folks, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll be back on this weekend with the national our preview of the national championship Monday. George and I will be on. We're still trying to figure out what the best time to get people on because everything's on Zoom now.
We will not be live on location as planned.
Yeah, we were planning on, but with the this variant and everything else, we're going to be in our friendly confines of our homes, and they're going to be giving us access. Like tomorrow, we got some access tomorrow. If you got that email.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're going to try to get some video and any interviews for next week. So in the meantime, thanks for joining us, and we'll leave you tonight with my my interview with Coach Nick Saban. That basically I was thought I was going to die of a heart attack, because of this guy is just a living he's just a legend of college football, and if you're in the media, you ask something stupid, he'll tell you a brand new one. Yeah,
he's making less money than Brian Kelly too.
Yeah, well, Brian Kelly destroyed me last year, but that's why I was determined this year to make sure I say the right thing and getting the ear up against the thing and listening.
A little coaching from your friend.
Yes, I remember calling you, going, "Did you hear what he just said?" And you're like, "Well, he was right."
He was right.
Hey, we all need that coaching point.
Hey, I'm always, you can coach me anytime. Like you told me to do my homework, so I'm going to go back and get ready for Saturday. Because
hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Do your homework.
Yeah. This is my post-game interview. I'm terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. Yeah, it was real bad. I'm going to send myself down to Norfolk after this game. Yeah.
It's better than Leavenworth.
Yeah, anyway, so here's my question, and I'll leave you guys with my question with Nick Saban about his defense, and you be the judge. Good evening, Coach Saban. Chris Heidel from Hermiston Radio in Baltimore. Talk about your defense. You guys did a fantastic job controlling that high-power offense at Cincinnati. Are you guys peaking at the right time, or you think that the next game might be the pinnacle of the season?
Well, I think that every team that you play offers different challenges, and whether it's matchups, whether it's the style of offense that they play. I think we had a good plan. I think the players did a good job of executing the plan. They played well together. And, we didn't give these guys a lot of explosive plays. That's one of the things that they've been sort of known for offensively all year long is, they run, and then they make a big play in the passing game. And we were able to limit that. And I think that was the key to the drill. And it took some patience, but I thought Pete did a really good job of being patient. We wanted to make them drive it through. And, twice I think they got the ball in the red zone and didn't make a touchdown, didn't score a touchdown. So, red zone and third down is big on getting off the field. And I think we had 3 fourth down stops to go with that. So, the defense did a good job. The defensive staff did a good job. And the players did a great job of executing the plan.
Okay, we'll next go to Robert.
Not bad, huh?
He gave you an awesome answer.
Rip you apart.
Yeah. You should have
Gave you a
told
good
me
answer,
afterwards.
man.
Hey, thank you. You should have told me afterwards, Nicole. I was over, like, oh, God. Because our good friend Dan DeToro was on before me, and I was like, oh, God, Dan. Yeah, so. Anyway, folks, we'll see you sometime this weekend. Just go on to our website. Let me give you the website real quick before we go here so you can join and see what we're doing for the national championship game because we will be covering that from home. So hopefully we'll be all, safe. Be safe, whatever you guys are doing. And, hopefully we'll get through this and we'll be back to what we're doing next year,
Try it again.
Try again. So there's our website. Visit at any time, and we'll see you guys this weekend. For Chris Heidel, for Steve Zulich, for George Bashura. Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.